Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, today we're jumping into something really, really vital for, well, anyone building a professional life here in the UK.
Yeah, especially if you're coming from maybe a different cultural background.
Exactly. We're talking about networking.
Right.
And we've dug into some really interesting material looking at UK culture, communication styles, all that etiquette stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And our mission really is simple. Give you practical, actionable strategies, things you can actually use to, build connections confidently.
Absolutely. And I think the first thing that jumps out from all this is just how foundational the approach is in the UK.
How so?
Well, it's not just like grabbing business cards, is it? It's much more about building trust, rapport, often over quite a bit of time.
Right. There's this mix of being professional, but also really quite polite.
Yeah, it's a blend. And that might feel pretty different if you're used to maybe more direct transactional networking styles.
That's a great point. One phrase in the material really stuck with me. In the UK, networking is more about building relationships than closing deals on the spot.
Yes.
Think of it as planting seeds for future opportunities. That really changes how you think about it, doesn't it?
It completely does. It's a longer game. And, planting those seeds seems to start with understanding some key cultural traits.
Okay, so what are those core things we need to grasp?
Well, our sources point to a few big ones. First, just how pervasive politeness is.
More than just manners.
Oh, yeah. The please, thank you, sorry, they're constant. It's
Yeah.
just embedded in how people talk professionally.
Okay, what else?
Then there's modesty. This is a big one. Even when you've achieved something significant, there's this tendency to downplay it. Avoid boasting.
Ah, right. So like shouting about your successes might actually backfire a bit.
It can, yeah. Finding that balance is tricky.
Well.
Then, humor.
Ooh, potentially tricky for non-native speakers.
Definitely. Light, non-offensive humor is great for breaking the ice, but, getting the tone and references right is key. You don't want things to land awkwardly.
So knowing what's generally safe humor territory is important.
Crucial. And the last one is punctuality. The material really stresses this.
Being on time isn't just nice, it's expected.
It's fundamental, a sign of respect, professionalism. Being late, even just a little, it can create a bit of a negative vibe right from the start.
Okay, so politeness, modesty, careful humor, and being on time. That's the bedrock.
Pretty much, yeah. That sets the stage for successful networking here.
Got it. So moving on from the cultural vibe, let's talk about actual communication, how people talk in these situations.
Mhm.
The sources mention something called polite directness. What does that actually mean in practice? Sounds subtle.
It is subtle. People in the UK do tend to express opinions fairly clearly, fairly directly. And this is the key bit, any potential criticism or disagreement, it's almost always wrapped in softening language, polite language.
So you get your point across, but you do it gently, respectfully.
Exactly. It's about clarity with consideration, maintaining that collaborative feel.
We saw a good example, didn't we? Instead of just saying, that idea won't work.
Right. You'd hear something more like, I see where you're coming from, but I wonder if we might approach it differently. Or maybe, that's an interesting take. Have we considered?
It keeps the door open for discussion rather than just shutting it down.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that ties into another concept, understatement.
Ah, yes. This can be a bit of a surprise, can't it? If you're from somewhere with a more direct self-promotion style.
Totally. People here often downplay their achievements, their expertise.
Like the example, instead of, I'm an expert in AI.
You'd much more likely hear, oh, I've worked quite a bit in AI, or I've done some work in the AI space.
That is a big difference. It could seem almost false modesty if you're not used to it. Why do you think that is? Why the understatement?
It probably goes back to that cultural emphasis on modesty, Overt boasting can feel a bit uncomfortable or inappropriate to many people here.
So let your work speak for itself? Kind of.
Kind of, yeah. Or maybe just a preference not to claim expertise too loudly. Understanding that is really helpful when you're talking about your own background, too.
Definitely. Okay, what about small talk? The dreaded small talk. Our sources say it's actually really important here, not just filler.
Oh, absolutely essential. You generally don't just jump straight into the business talk. It can feel quite jarring.
Abrupt, yeah.
Small talk is how you build that initial connection. Find some common ground. Create a comfortable atmosphere first.
And the safe topics are pretty much what you'd expect.
Yeah, the classics. The weather, always a winner.
Can't go wrong with the weather here.
Never. Travel, maybe current events, but keep it light, non-political. Sports, maybe something about the event itself or the local
So
area.
we even found some specific icebreakers people could use. Like, the weather's been all over the place, hasn't it?
The go-to. Or just asking, have you been to an event like this before?
Simple. Or, what's been the highlight of the conference for you so far? That's quite a nice open-ended one.
It is. Gets the other person talking, easy ways in. And just briefly on the mechanics of speaking, the sources mentioned subtle intonation.
Ah, right. The way emphasis or stress is used, often a bit softer than, say, American English.
Yeah, potentially. So a phrase like, what was the example? I wonder if you'd mind sharing your thoughts.
I wonder if you'd mind sharing your thoughts.
Yeah, I can hear that. It's less punchy, maybe.
Exactly. It adds to that overall feeling of politeness, maybe less assertiveness. It aligns with the general communication style.
Okay, interesting. So shifting gears a bit, let's get really practical. The actual rules of engagement, professional etiquette. We have a pretty clear do's and don'ts list from the material.
Yeah, this is super helpful, actionable stuff.
So on the do's side, punctuality. We've hit that one, but it's critical.
Definitely.
Using polite phrases, excuse me, would you mind if, that kind of thing.
Standard, but important. Making eye contact shows you're engaged, but crucially, not staring someone down.
Right, keep it natural. Also, do listen attentively, ask good questions, show you're actually interested.
And the follow-up. Do follow up, usually within, what, 2 or 3 days?
Yeah, 2-3 days is a good guideline. Shows you're serious about the connection.
Okay, so those are the do's. What about the don'ts? What should people actively avoid?
Well, a big one is interrupting. It's generally seen as quite rude. Wait for a natural pause before jumping in.
That's a key difference compared to some cultures, isn't it? Where interruption might show enthusiasm.
It can be, yeah. Here, it's usually better to wait. Also, don't be overly pushy about swapping contact details immediately. Let it flow a bit.
Makes sense. And avoid the potentially tricky topics, right? Politics, religion, money.
Yeah.
Probably best left alone in initial chats.
Definitely safer that way. And, related to listening, don't dominate the conversation. Make it a two-way street.
Good point. And finally, maybe manage expectations. Don't expect every chat to lead to a job offer or a massive deal right away.
Exactly. Remember the planting seeds idea. It's about the long term.
And that tip about waiting for the pause before speaking, that feels really important. It's a specific behavior people can practice.
It really is. It signals consideration, allows for more thoughtful exchange. It changes the whole pace, really.
So beyond the words, what about body language? Nonverbal cues. They can say a lot too.
They really can, and sometimes unintentionally. So the material outlines some key norms here. Handshakes, for instance.
Right. Generally, light to moderate grip. Not too firm, not too limp.
Exactly. A couple of shakes, a smile. Keep it brief and pleasant.
And eye contact. We mentioned moderate, engaged, but not intense.
And personal space is a big one. Generally, keep about an arm's length distance.
Getting too close can feel uncomfortable or intrusive.
It definitely can, yeah. Respecting that space is important. And finally, gestures.
Ah. Keep them fairly restrained in professional settings. Not too many wild hand movements.
Generally, yes. A more understated approach is usually the way to go.
Okay. So, let's say you've navigated the event, had a good chat, maybe swapped details. What next? The follow-up is crucial, isn't it, to actually build on that connection?
Absolutely crucial. That's where you turn a fleeting meeting into something potentially lasting. The sources give clear advice here.
Timing first within 2 to 3 days, we said.
Yep, relatively quickly while the conversation is still fresh in both your minds.
And the tone.
Keep it polite, friendly, but still professional. And concise people are busy.
Right. And definitely mention something specific you talked about.
Yes, jog their memory, reference the conversation about, topic, and if it feels right, maybe suggest a next step of coffee, another chat.
We even got that handy email template. Let's see. Subject. Great connecting at event name.
Simple and clear.
Then, hi name. It was a pleasure meeting you at event name. I really enjoyed our conversation about specific topic.
Perfect. Reminds them who you are and what you discussed.
I'd love to stay in touch and explore potential collaborations. Or something similar in the future.
Offers a gentle next step without being pushy.
Looking forward to connecting further. Best regards, your name. It ticks all the boxes, doesn't it?
It really does. It's personal enough, it's clear, it's polite, and that final tip is key. Avoid sounding too formal or too casual. Find that sweet spot.
That professional yet friendly balance.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot: culture, communication, etiquette, follow-up. But what about the potential tripwires? The common mistakes people, especially non-native speakers, might make without realizing.
Ah, yeah, the pitfalls. Good to be aware of these. The sources flagged a few common ones.
Like being too direct.
Yeah, that's a big one. Forgetting to use those softening phrases we talked about. It can come across as blunt, or maybe even a bit aggressive unintentionally.
Right. And skipping the small talk. Just diving right in.
That's another one. It might seem efficient, but here it can feel abrupt, maybe even rude. Taking a few minutes for that initial chat is really worthwhile.
Okay. What else?
Talking too much about yourself, forgetting that networking is a dialogue, not a monologue. You need to balance sharing with listening, showing genuine interest in the other person.
Makes sense. It's about connection, not just broadcasting.
Precisely. And finally, assuming familiarity too quickly.
Ah, getting too casual too soon. Using first names immediately or very informal language.
Exactly. It's usually better to err on the side of slightly more formal initially and let the rapport build naturally before getting too relaxed with the language or terms of address.
And that example of rephrasing disagreement is useful again here. Instead of "you're wrong," try.
I see your point, but have you considered, or that's one way of looking at it. Another perspective might be it opens discussion, avoids conflict.
It's all about that constructive, polite exchange.
Fundamentally, yes.
So, as we kind of wrap this up, what are the absolute core takeaways if someone listening remembers just a few things?
Okay, key things. One, UK networking is relationship focused. It's a long game, not about instant wins.
Right. Plant those seeds.
Two, politeness, patience, professionalism. They're your foundation, always.
And three.
Strike that balance. Be confident in what you offer, but present it with humility. Avoid the hard sell. Avoid boasting.
Got it. Understand the culture, be polite, be patient, be modest, yet confident.
That's a good summary. And understanding the communication nuances, polite directness, understatement, small talk, that's vital too. Plus the etiquette, the body language. It all adds up.
It really does paint a complete picture. So for everyone listening, we've got a little challenge for you.
Go on.
Find a networking opportunity, could be in person, could be virtual, and actively try to use, say, at least 3 things we've talked about today.
Ooh, I like that. Practical application.
Maybe it's using a specific icebreaker, maybe consciously waiting for that pause before speaking, maybe sending that perfectly toned follow-up email within 2 days.
Great idea. It's the way to make this stuff stick. Put it into practice.
Definitely. And maybe just a final thought to leave people with, thinking about how understanding all these sort of networking nuances, it isn't just about professional game, is it?
No, that's a really good point. It actually gives you a much deeper insight into UK culture and communication more broadly.
Right. And maybe learning to navigate these subtleties, it doesn't just build better business connections. It could lead to, I don't know, more meaningful connections in general.
Absolutely. It's about understanding and connecting with people on their terms, which is valuable in any context, really. Something to think about.